In studio with us right now, the mayor of our great city, John Whitmire, is here. He served as mayor of the city for just a little over a year now, but he's been working in politics most of his adult life. Believe it or not, he served in the state of Texas House of Representatives for 10 years, and then this is the part that gets me. We're going to ask him, as a state senator for 40 years. This seems unbelievable.
That's a lot of mileage.
That's right. And we have
a lot of experience.
We have many questions for Mayor Whitmire, but we welcome your questions as well. Give us a call at 713-440-8870. Mayor Whitmire, good morning and welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you and congratulate each of you for your format.
Thank you.
Hello Houston is so appropriate, and I want to invite myself back as often as possible.
That chair is your chair.
It's a great venue.
We're going to put your name on that chair. That's for you any day.
Like I said, as our schedules allow, I'll be here because it's a great opportunity. So thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. This really is our way to give back to our city, providing this platform for them, our listeners and our viewers, to be able to chat with you directly.
I look forward to it.
I do want to start off with the fact 40 years in the Senate.
Sure.
What made you want to then be mayor? Wasn't that time to
I was
say,
asked by
enough
Houstonians. I was not looking for a job. I was
true.
the most senior senator, dean of the Senate. People listened to me. I worked across the aisle, had a very productive last session. 2 years ago, I was in the Senate. So we moved the backlog of murder cases to the front of the criminal docket. We created entertainment district downtown that's going to transform the George Brown, another convention hotel. But I was approached by Houstonians. Would I run for mayor? And I said, no, maybe at one time, but not now. Life is timing. Politics is timing. And then they said, what would it take to get you to consider? And I said, that's a serious question to a public servant that's done it since he was 22 and a U of H senior. So I thought about it, and I said, get in the car with me and let's drive across Houston. Public safety is a top concern. Our infrastructure, our homeless challenges.
One of the main things that you said there that really caught my ear was you worked across the aisle.
Sure.
So important today in doing anything in government.
The city, before I got there, had no relationship in recent years with the Austin leadership. It was detrimental to Houston. Our Harvey recovery funding were denied us. We needed city resources from Austin. So we've been neglected for years because our city leadership in Austin, and there's plenty of blame to go around, would not pick up the phone and talk to each other. Well, I've spent my life there, got things done, chair of criminal justice, so I don't put it in partisan terms. I just want to get things done, and certainly the public recognized that back home in Houston. But Austin is a challenging place. I had to think and consider and pray about where I could best use my experience. And I came to the conclusion it would be in Houston. And experience matters, collaboration, relationships matter in life, and they certainly matter in the current position I have.
Well, one of the first things you did was take care of the whole backlog with the firefighters. I mean, that seemed to just fester and fester like a sore toe, and you came in and handled it.
Frank, it was a serious issue. 8 years without a contract. We couldn't recruit. The first recruitment class in 24 was 31, and they would tell you they're going to other jurisdictions. So they had no certainty of benefits or a career path. We immediately sat down. We were facing a March trial with a friendly judge, aggravated at the city. So we sat down. The partnership was predicting it would take $800 million to $1.2 billion to settle. We did it in a fair method of $650 million, which is fair to taxpayers and the firefighters, and the morale's never been higher. And of course, the morale is high in HPD as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. So where are we now? I mean, everything's pretty well settled.
Recruiting, aggressive recruiting in the fire and the police. We had 400 police cadets graduated last year. We still need more. But, there was a scandal, the suspended cases, 260,000, which is unheard of. It led to Chief Fenner, fine gentleman, retired. But I knew through relationships and experience that Chief Díaz would be just what we need to come in from the outside. He had worked with HPD on task force as a Texas Ranger for years. I don't know where he is right now, but he's fighting crime. and doing a heck of a job, and morale's never been higher. We have a city police contract we're in the process of solving.
We have lots of questions for the mayor, but we also invite your questions here at 713-440-8870. That's 713-440-8870. Our first call today comes in from Amber. Amber, what's on your mind?
Hi, I would like an explanation from Mayor Whitmire of why he's wasting precious taxpayer dollars by ordering the removal of existing bike lane bumps that help keep children safe.
Well, thank you for that question. I'm listening to the communities across Houston, and I would urge you to talk to the Park Board CEO, Ms. White, will elicit all the connectivity and the trails and the bios that we're bringing together. You know, the last administration and a lot of the activists in that administration apparently were just building bike trails and lanes as fast as they could, wherever they could. So there's been a significant pushback across Houston. We listen to people. The Montrose project was going to remove 50 trees, very divisive, controversial. 12-foot sidewalks, which would make the reduction of the size of the lanes. That's the major thoroughfares, into the med center. So we just weren't going to go and take that approach. But we're doing tremendous things that many folks have not heard about, the connectivity of the bios and the trails. We're doing everything we can. Some of it is so sensitive I can't discuss it because we have to acquire property to get the bikers into Memorial Park in a safe manner. So I'm excited to talk to you about it. I respect your opinion, but quite frankly, I'm listening to the residents and not special interests and not people who have conflicts of interest. And it's how I was in the legislature 50 years. I hope you understand I wasn't there 50 years because I didn't represent the public interest. So as I live in Houston, grew up in Houston, I've watched things develop. You just can't have road diet in Houston that impairs our mobility. It wasn't laid out that way. It won't go forward that way. But I don't know which particular route you're talking about, but it was well thought out. We have an outstanding director of public works. We listen to council members and the public, and that's what I'm going to continue to do.
And
Amber,
it's tricky.
thank you. I just want to thank Amber for her call
but
there.
It's tricky, Mayor. I mean, you're putting cars and bikes on the same road and pedestrians right next to them, so you can't just go roughshod and just start putting trails out there.
Here's the challenge, Frank. They were designed and paid for, some by the county, some by the tourist cities, but nobody planned for the maintenance. The armadillos that get so much attention, you go out Hardy or Jensen, they're in people's yards, the boats are sticking up, the Heights experience the other day were tearing up tires. I'm just not going to sit around and not be responsible to what first responders tell me. The Houston Avenue change, first responders said we cannot turn right off of Washington with a fire engine and get on 45 South. It's one of the most positive things I've done. So we're very proud of our record. We're going to have a connectivity between south of Allen Parkway and north going over the bayou. But I would urge you to have Ms. White with the Parks Board, the CEO, to come, and she'll talk about the 11-mile segment in Spring Branch between Hammerling and Kentwood, a 3-mile trail that will connect Brays Bayou and 30 miles of street trails. Inwood Forest has an outstanding repurpose of the old Inwood Forest Club to create a bike and hike trails, Brays Bayou. I can go on and on.
Yep.
We just are not going to interfere with the success and the need of Houston's mobility. When you do a road diet on a major thoroughfare, it will slow down the traffic. That's irrefutable. But on the other hand, people have to go to U of H, they have to go to work, and I can cite some real bad examples of poor planning, but more importantly, poor maintenance.
Okay, well,
So
with your blessing, we'll have Ms. White on, that's for sure.
So
excellent.
it is safe to say then you are committed to bike mobility for the city. It just needs to be thought out.
It needs to be recreational, needs to be on our bike paths, the connectivity of the trails and the bayous. That's the way it's laid out, been so successful.
Will this include biking commuters as opposed to just
Of course.
recreational?
But you also see a lot of the trails in areas that are just never occupied. You got the Hardy, Jensen, Lorraine, north of LBJ. Somebody has contracts, in my judgment, and 50 years of experience. When something just doesn't make sense, you can look into conflicts of interest. And
Okay.
Right. Well, I do have
I'm
a quick-
committed to reducing that.
I do have a quick question because
Sure.
Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis issued a statement saying that his district was the one that funded the project
Sure.
on Austin Street, and so he said that
But
he's
no
disappointed.
maintenance. And so
Okay.
I've worked with Rodney for 30 years.
Yeah.
He's a friend. He's very much into biking.
Yeah.
Some of the trails he's built, they use about once a month when he gets about 30 of his friends, and they go on a trail ride. And if you go talk to the minority communities, they are offended that it looks like people come through there like they're on display. Try talking to the residents of Second Ward. They're offended that some activists and the commissioner and others go through their neighborhood about once a month, and they feel like they're on display. If you go out to Hardy, I would urge any of you, go do an interview of residents on Hardy Street out north of downtown. They got so many needs. So many illegal dumping, ditches. I can go on, illegal dumping. And then they'll say, we don't want the bikes. It's denying us the use of our property. It's a hazard. The bike trails along the curb, then you have to park if you're a visitor, and they can't come out of their driveway. We're listening to Houstonians. The Blodgett, right here within walking distance of U of H, they resisted it. The ministers, the churches, and Rodney said they got to get over it. Well, that's not John Whitmire's style.
Yeah.
We work with people.
Let's leave this. I want to get to the budget while you're
I'd
here.
like to talk about the budget.
Okay, we're 10%, 300
And that's a
million
hell of a
short.
lot more sensitive than some of the misinformation. Some of these battles go back to the 45 expansion when I was a senator. So I understand who the protesters are, and they've got a job to do, and I respect their passion. But I've got to represent all Houstonians.
Totally. I think, Mayor Whitmire, some of the concerns are just about funding, that some of these projects have been funded and the city
But if
has
they're
put
funded for the
money
wrong
towards
purpose, I cannot look and say, I can name you streets that fire and police cannot travel. They're pushing them through the neighborhood. In fact, some of the areas they're pushing cars into the neighborhoods because it's backing up from road dike. And I have a responsibility to listen to first responders, residents, and use my best judgment.
Okay, this budget deficit we're in,
Sure.
330 million is what we're hearing.
About 340.
Okay, where did it come from?
It's been in existence for years. Previous administrations have kicked the can down the road.
With so much.
Mayor
it seems
Turner
like.
funded the last two budget cycles with federal COVID funding. Left office and said we had a surplus. No, we didn't have a surplus. When we got there on day one, 24, we had a $160 million surplus. We had to settle the firefighters, so that got it another $30 million. That's the bond payments each year. Inflation and salary increases got it to about $240. Huge amount. Just about the time we have our arms around it, collaborating with the county, we have county commissioners that are helping us with some of our infrastructure expenditures. Briones has been tremendous. Tom Ramsey, Commissioner Garcia. Never before, during the storms, they would call me and say, we'll take care of the debris inside the Houston, which happens to be in our precinct. Briones is helping me with multi-service centers. Tom Ramsey said, we'll pay half of the cost of fixing streets in my precinct in the city of Houston. That's never existed before, but it's through relationships and collaboration. So we were at 240. Then we lost the lawsuit on the drainage fee. Been in court for years. I'm trying to explain. I don't want to just talk about the past, but I inherited a number of messes. One, a financial deficit. So we're having progress with the $120 million drainage fee settlement. They've given us time to work on that. So we'll push that one forward and see how our efficiency study saves money. When I got there, from working with 9 mayors and others, knew that there was a lot of waste, duplication, and quite frankly, conflicts of interest and corruption. We've got 2 TERS members, managers in the Midtown TERS under indictment. We had a city contractor on a water contract giving out $3 million contracts to people that had no businesses. She pled guilty to 10 years. So I'm committed to not raising fees or taxes until we eliminate waste, duplication, in corruption, quite frankly, and there's still work to do. But back to your point, we're getting an extension on the settlement on the drainage. The $240 million is going to come from a huge section of it, over $100 million, from an efficiency study. When I got there, I knew it was inefficient, waste, but I didn't know the extent of it. So in May, we hired Ernst & Young to do an efficiency assessment. Mm-hmm. They rolled out about 2 months ago their report. 40% of the city supervisors supervise 3 or fewer people. 2,800 people are eligible for retirement. We got 92-year-olds, in all due respect to our seniors. 88-year-old working at the police department. His wife brings him to work. He's in IT. So what we thought about, how can we compassionately and methodically encourage people to take a retirement? So far, there's been 500. They get a fourth of a year's salary. They get to keep their insurance rates. They're very excited. The morale is high. So we're going to save large amounts of money. We're also looking for other sources. The state is looking for opportunities to help us. We're working with the county. And yes, we're concerned about the federal cuts in our grants. Our health department budget is $160 million. That's what some of these people that are calling about some items, you're welcome to work on anything you want to. But I'm looking at a health department that gets $120 million of its $160 budget from federal grants. So I'm wrestling with that. What is going to be the health care picture for Houstonians? And these vaccination and the measles, they don't respect city limits or county lines. So we're all in this together. Housing, HUD funding. We've got, talk about conflicts of interest, over on Middle Street, $115 million complete project, apparently 400 apartments, mostly for families. It's built on an EPA environmental situation, and it's just sitting there waiting for an outcome from the EPA. Conflicts of interest should have never been built there. So I have a busy schedule, Frank. The budget is something that we're dealing with daily. We're asking our department heads to look for savings, and we're looking for outside help.
You're listening to Hello Houston, and we are talking with City of Houston Mayor John Whitmire. Now is the time to give us a call with your questions, 713-440-8870.
Another issue that they're covering, we're looking at right now at Houston Public Media Online, there is the reporting on what's going on in Montrose and the redevelopment of that area. And I guess there were some folks out there upset yesterday.
Well, a handful are upset. We're listening to the Sue Lovels, longtime resident, former city council member. We're listening to the Turs. It's very divisive because everyone has a little different vision. We're listening to the Ismaili Center, which is a Muslim mosque at the end of Montrose as it approaches Allen Parkway. There's room for everybody at the table. You know, there are people protesting. Some of them have every good intention. Then there's others, conflicts of interest, that are building their membership. I've worked with the organizations for years. They were upset about the 45 and 59 expansion. They go around looking for battles because that increases their membership. But I'm listening to the residents. We're going to fix Montrose. It's a major artery through our community to get to the med center. You can't do a road diet on Montrose when it's the main pathway for ambulances. We'll have pedestrian crosswalks. We'll have just about every one thing everybody's looking for. It may not be their design. I'm not really fond of 12-foot sidewalks if it requires reducing lanes or the size of the lanes. The public's rebelling against it, and I'm listening to the public. I respect the protesters. Some are doing it for the right reason. Others, it's their job. They show up. Where are we going to protest today? If not Houston Avenue a couple of months ago, now it's Montrose. It was Polk the other day. I understand that. This is not my first rodeo, but they're not going to be able to dictate to me how to run the city because I got a pretty overwhelming show of support based on my experience and common sense.
Yeah, you were given a referendum. I mean, 60% You took that election.
Elections matter.
They do matter, and I think that for most people in Houston, I think they're way behind you. There are those that aren't, but that's going to be with any politics. You just have to go forward with your plan.
That's some of the leftovers from the previous campaign that just can't accept the results. And I understand that. I don't like it. I don't know why it has to get so personal. I've disagreed with people in politics my whole life, but you don't have to be name calling or baby killer or all the other things that some of the outrageous protesters use, but it doesn't faze me at all. I know where I'm going, and I'm listening to Houstonians. And we're heading in the right direction. We haven't spent much time on public safety. You know, in March, I'm taking care of high water bills. You know, Amy Davis did a great job on exposing the city's high water bills. 100,000 sensors were broken. We did that in 10 months. But in the middle of that in March, I get a call on a Friday afternoon from Chief Fenner, who'd gone up northeast to visit his family, and said, I got to get back to Houston. The press has found out we have 26 suspended investigations in HPD. Well, when he got home, by Monday it was 26,000. By the time it was all revealed, it was 260,000. Much of it domestic abuse, one-on-one offenses. So we had to pull officers off the street, work through that. People got indicted, got held accountable, and it led to Chief Fenner retiring. And then I had toughest decision I've made. Who is the best person to lead this city in improving public safety, which is my highest priority?
Which I do have a question. Mayor, can you give us an update on where those cases stand today?
They've all been they've been resolved. There's some that are still under investigation, but they certainly have all not suspended. None of them are suspended. And we've done away with that labeling completely. It was one of the dumbest things. And I chaired criminal justice for 30 years. I worked close with the police. You would think someone would have come up to me and said, you got to get involved. But it was the best kept secret in town. And quite frankly, that led to the chief's retirement.
There you have that. So let's move on just a little bit because I want to talk about the administration's policy on the police officers. You said the firefighters and police officers are all looking pretty good. We've talked about the bike lanes.
Yes, and I kind of want to go back to the deficit a little bit more because we understand that is something that is you've spoken about how you're working across aisles. You know, we had City Controller Chris Hollins in yesterday, and he talked specifically about how he's working on this 2020. He just released the 2025 audit plan. Can you talk us through that? When you receive that, how does that work?
He has a job to do, and we'll cooperate. Quite frankly. He's done one audit this year. He has more to do, but we will collaborate with the city controller's office. We have different roles, but he's been coming before council since the day he was sworn in. How are you going to pay for this? Well, the question is, pay for what? The old model that is inefficient, incompetent, and wasteful, or this new model that we're going to roll out? So we have a different approach, you know. I respect him, but I've got a job to do, irrespective of what his challenges are.
Right.
So I guess the bigger question in all of this is, in today's day and age, running a city this size, we see so many places all fall into these deficits. Is there a way to run a city that ends up in the black, to be able to balance this all out and yet not see skyrocketing taxes and all of that kind of stuff? How do you do it?
Glad you asked that. It's very tough, and it's been here in Houston a challenge, maybe going back as far as Bob Lanier. First of all, the state put us under a very severe revenue cap. That's 4.5%. But when Bill White was mayor, Houstonians went to 3.5%. We've lost $2 billion since 2015, the first year of the revenue cap. That demonstrates the condition of the streets. We got 1,000 broken water mains today. Now, you got to keep in mind, I've only been in office 14 months. 1,000 broken water mains from years and years of neglect. The financial picture is the revenue cap, and then other cities have sources of income that Houston does not enjoy. Austin owns their power company that they sell electricity. San Antonio has a gas company. We have none of that. So what's happened is we've had a substantial shortfall for years. Other mayors have sold the city assets and properties. We've been understaffed with fire and police for years. So we've just made do. Let me tell you what, we have a great city and great people. And the difference is we're going to meet our challenge.
But then how do you do that?
You try to be efficient. You cut out the waste and duplication. And let me just tell you, sometime later this year, John Whitmire will go public and say, I've done everything I can. I've cut out the waste, the duplication. I've done as much as I can about the conflicts of interest. Now, Houstonians, I need your help. I always say this when I'm in public. I need your help. I would suggest probably the first thing I look to is an exception to that revenue cap for public safety. We're doing the numbers now. What are we going to really need to address public safety and operations of HPD? And it's not just officers on the street. It's the forensics. It's our equipment. We need police cars because they can't keep up with the bad guys. And let me tell you the difference in my administration. I wasn't looking for this. I wasn't looking for a political position. I came home to fix Houston. Nobody has been as transparent as I have. Our water supply. Oh, we have 250 years of future water, but it's the treatment plant sitting just side of Galena Park, built in '54. You want to know what keeps me up at night? Getting a call that the pumps and all the equipment has failed. Mm-hmm. We have no backup. We have no duplication of our water system. I'm talking about the med center. I'm talking about the venues. And nobody's talked like that. See, it's very delicate. If you're trying to attract business to Houston, how are you going to tell them we got a water supply danger? So you have to be very selective. We're in Austin this session asking for hundreds of millions of dollars to fix our water treatment plant.
So at
and
the
it'll
end
only
of,
be a Band-Aid.
At the end of these 4 years, where do you see we would be?
Well, it's going to be 8 years, most likely. I don't think I can fix this in 4 years. But whatever, that's up to the public.
But do you think you could fix it in 8?
We're gonna have a solvent city when I leave office, because I'm not worried about the next election. Elections take care of themselves. In fact, you win elections in between elections. People know I'm honest and transparent, telling them the way it is, whether it's water billing or public safety, infrastructure. We lost last year $70 million because of the revenue cap.
Mayor Whitmire.
So that's why we're playing catch up.
Mayor Whitmire, we're receiving a question from YouTube. It says, Public Works is already understaffed. Will this hiring freeze slow down all projects for drainage that we really need? Some folks in Northeast Houston are flooding frequently.
And have been for years and years. No, I'll be out there next week meeting with him. No, Public Works was such a dysfunctional operation when I got there. We got 1,000 broken water mains today, so we have a plan to reduce that. We will be talking to the public about infrastructure funding. The city's operated as a pay-as-you-go for years. You let me get a year from now when we can go bond matters, and we will have a significant bond. But let me tell you what, I don't live in a silo. We have to watch what the county does, which is not hesitant about raising taxes, whether it's flood control or other items. HISD had their $4 billion bond issue. So people are watching us very carefully. And I've committed, if I don't cut out waste and duplication, I'm not going to come and ask you for resources. But we will at the appropriate time. And Northeast, been neglected for years, will get that flood control money.
Well, I was going to say, Mayor Whitmire, we had a city line break right in front of my house, and it took 4 weeks.
I understand.
To get somebody out. Can you talk us a little bit about, people are saying that there is essentially this bottleneck of information from the residents in their area sending in, their ticket item, and then we say, yep, we get a call, yes, we received your ticket, and then we never hear anything from it.
Been like that for years. We're addressing that. But let me just give you the scope of the challenge. We woke up this morning with 2.3 million people, Houstonians, 600 square miles, 2.3. Any of you want to guess how many people came to Houston today to work and attend events? 700,000.
Wow.
That's why the traffic, we've been discovered. You go out I-10, 290, in direction. New subdivisions are everywhere you look. Mid-rises all over the city of Houston. We haven't prepared for this growth, and we're playing catch-up. But we have an excellent team in place. I'm very proud of them. They work long hours, particularly at our emergency center. I've watched people during both storms sleep on the floor. Out at the pump I was talking about that is so fragile at our water treatment, they sleep on the floor to watch the gauges. So it's going to take time to address the neglect of years. We have 1,000 broken water mains today.
You said that a few times. So do we have the staff to fix them, or what's the plan?
Well, it just takes time. We contract a lot out, and then we have, an internal group that they work around the clock. Yeah. They just working around the clock.
You talked about,
but I'm talking about that demand on our city resources. That's the size of Atlanta. And we have to furnish them safety, EMS, our streets. I can go on and on. It's a huge job. We're up to it. That's the reason we came from Austin, to surround ourselves with smart people, and we're headed in the right direction.
You talk about this number of people coming in, and
can you imagine that? 700,000.
It's amazing. And one question, it also comes from the other side of the same issue, which is the unhoused population in Houston. Affordable housing. And I don't know if you see housing as the answer to the unhoused, or if there's other things at play here. Both of these issues bother Houstonians a great deal.
Sure. Well, obviously, we need to find affordable housing. It's a national issue. We're making strides. I got Mike Nichols, who was leading the coalition, homeless coalition, retired. We brought him back out of retirement. Transparent, honest guy. There's been a lot of conflicts and abuses in the housing authority and the housing department. I've completely replaced the housing authority, new director. You got Mike at the housing department. So we're working with HUD. The new Secretary of HUD was a former state rep out of Dallas. We have a good working relationship with him. But obviously, we're very, very concerned about the reduction in federal grants and funding for housing. The homeless issue is another separate issue that drives me nuts. That was one of the reasons I listed why I would run for mayor. Mm-hmm. We have to deal with the homeless and get them, for their own safety and welfare, out of public spaces. I work the freezes when we have warming centers and beg people to go with us to the Fondy Recreation Center. They won't go. It's a mental health issue. The homeless issue is very complex. I've got Chief Satterwhite, who was the interim police chief, working on it with his experience of HPD dealing with the homeless. We've got Metro involved. We can start talking more about Metro in a minute. They've got resources. People will not use their transportation, whether it's the trains or the buses, because their stations are dirty, unsafe, and not on time. So we've made a complete sweep at Metro with a new board that is focusing on micro-transit. That's the little shuttles that run right now in 3rd Ward. In fact, the greatest demand for them, I thought it would be in 3rd Ward to go to the church or the doctor, is to go to HEB on Alameda and North McGregor. So we're trying to be innovative using technology, and it's a challenge. But the homeless issue is a national issue. I don't know why the Biden administration, I don't know why the current administration doesn't allow the major cities solve their homeless issue, and we need mental health treatment and shelters.
Will we see a change in it, do you feel?
Yes. They're working on it as we sit here and talk.
It's more mental, as you say, I think, than anything else.
It's a huge part of it. The criminal justice system plays a role. Harris County, overloaded jail, at midnight tonight, they will let about 300 out the back door, nowhere to go, because they get credit for the next day. So at midnight tonight, if they're supposed to be released on the 2nd, guys at midnight with no resources, no family, then they end up on the Metro train or buses, and they get arrested for vagrancy. Welcome to the criminal justice system. Huntsville, I've worked on them for years. We need a reentry program. Okay. The parolees coming out of Huntsville, or they serve all, end up on the streets of Houston. So we're fighting on many fronts. This is a 24-hour job.
All the time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have one more quick
Absolutely.
question.
Yes.
The whole
People
issue.
ask me, "Are you having fun?" No, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it because we're making a difference, and that's the reason.
You mentioned
my whole life's been committed to that.
You mentioned your relationship with Austin. Any chance that the governor will actually have an election for the Turner seat?
I wouldn't begin to try to speak for Greg Abbott. I think if you read the closeness of the U.S. Speaker's race is such that, Frank, it's what I read,
Yeah.
and just the scuttle coffee shop talk, is that he'll delay it as long as possible. But, I see where one candidate, who's not a candidate now, Menifee, might take him to court. So it's politics, and I'll be honest with you, I don't have time for the politics.
What is your relationship with the governor?
Good question. During the debris pickup of Barrow, we were out of money. We had to have debris pickup. The county, the property tax statute for storms and crises, you can raise the property taxes. I don't want to raise property taxes as long as I know there's waste at City Hall. I'm just not going to do it. The county raised their property taxes. I met with Abbott in the middle of the storm. I said, listen, I'm broke, but I got debris to pick up. I need $50 million. We got $36 million, and he spread the others with West U, Bel Air, and other jurisdictions. Relationships matter. I have, I disagree with Abbott on many, many fronts. But when it comes to fixing Houston and what's best for Houston, I'll sit down and work with anyone.
Oh, what about the U of H games?
Yeah, here's the heavy-hitting questions
right.
now.
I've got a real dilemma. I want to go, and I believe they'll be playing Monday. So if I go for Saturday, that means I got to stay for Monday, and I can't be out of the city that long. And, of course, you can work on your phone. So it's a challenge. I'm excited as a U of H graduate. It brings the city together. And, man, I can't wait to watch them. I mean, my whole week has that as a goal to get by either San Antonio or TV.
Mayor, we're excited to have you here in
Bring
studio
the city
with
together
us.
like,
Yeah.
since the Astros World Series games.
Yeah.
Thank you for
And
coming in.
I passed legislation, the Sports Authority, to create all the venues. One of the greatest pleasures is to be coming out of Dyken Park, was Minute Maid, and see all the joy and how we're all Houstonians after a successful sports venture, such as the Cougars winning it all.
And
That's
FIFA
right.
coming
And
our way
FIFA.
next year.
Hey, I look forward to coming back. Y'all got me all ready to go back to work and fired
Mayor,
up.
thank you
It's great
very
to see
much
you. Thank you
for
so
coming
much.
in.
Hey, good
Mayor
luck to
Whitmire.
y'all.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Whitmire, the mayor of the great city of Houston.